I didn't think being called naggy would be the thing that made me question my entire relationship. My name is Chloe, I'm 27, I like things clean, organized, normal. Not perfect, just livable. The kind of space where two adults actually share responsibility. Liam, my boyfriend, is 31. Old enough to know better. Old enough that I didn't expect to feel like I was raising him. At first, I thought we just had different habits. That's what everyone says, right? Compromise, adjust, meet in the middle, but somewhere between, can you put this away? And, you're being naggy. Something shifted, because it stopped feeling like compromise, and started feeling like I was the only one trying. And the worst part, I actually started wondering if he was right, if I was asking for too much. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to realize this wasn't about cleaning. It was about what happens when one person stops asking, and the other never starts trying. Moving day felt like a beginning. Boxes everywhere, half open, half labeled, nothing in the right place yet. But it didn't matter. We were laughing, arguing about where the couch should go, ordering pizza because neither of us had the energy to cook. This is it, I remember thinking. Not in a dramatic way. Just, quietly, this is our life starting. We sat on the floor that night. No table yet, no routine yet, just two people surrounded by things that didn't have a place. It felt temporary, messy, but in a good way. Like we were building something, together. I didn't know then that I was about to become a manager instead of a partner. The first week was easy to ignore. I saw his shirt on the floor, next to the bed. I picked it up, didn't think about it. The next day, it was socks. Near the couch, same thing. I picked them up. It didn't feel like a problem. It felt like adjusting. Two people, different habits. That's normal. I mentioned it once, light, casual. Hey, can you toss these in the laundry basket? Yeah, sorry, he said. Easy, automatic. He didn't do it. I did. That should have been the moment I noticed something. But I didn't, because it still felt small. By the second week, it wasn't just one thing. It was patterns. A shirt on the floor. Socks by the couch. A hoodie draped over a chair like it lived there now. I started picking things up without thinking. Not out of frustration, out of habit, like I was maintaining something. Keeping things from slipping. By week 3, it wasn't slipping anymore. It had already shifted. The floor started looking like a wardrobe. The entryway, a small shoe store, shoes everywhere. Some matched, some didn't. The drying rack stayed out, even when everything on it was dry. It stopped being a tool, became furniture. And the mouthwash, always on the counter, same spot, every day, like a roommate who didn't understand the concept of putting things back. That's when I brought it up again. Not casually this time, still calm, but clearer. Hey, can you start putting things away after you use them? He sighed, not loud, but enough. You're being picky. That word sat wrong. Picky. I looked around the apartment. At the floor, at the counters, at the things that didn't belong where they were. This isn't picky, I thought. This is basic. I didn't say that out loud. A few days later, it happened again. His shoes were by the door. Not next to it, not near the rack, just there, in the way. I asked him, again, hey, can you put your shoes away? He was on his phone, scrolling, didn't look up. Silence. I waited. Liam, he exhaled, still didn't look at me. You're so naggy lately, he said. Just let me relax. And something in my chest twisted. Naggy. The word felt heavier than it should have. I stood there for a second, trying to process it. Am I naggy? I ran it back in my head. I asked him once today, 3 times this week. That's not nagging. That's repeating myself. Because he's not listening. But somehow, it didn't feel that simple anymore. Because the way he said it made it sound like the problem was me. And that was new. I picked up the shoes. Didn't say anything else. But the thought stayed. Quiet. Persistent. Am I asking for too much? That was the first time I questioned it. It wouldn't be the last. I waited a few days before bringing it up again. Not because it wasn't bothering me. Because I wanted to do it right. Calm, clear, reasonable. I didn't bring it up in the moment. Didn't point at the floor. Didn't react to anything specific. I asked him to sit down. Hey, I said, I just want us to get on the same page about a few house things. No tension in my voice. I don't want to keep reminding you, I said. I'd rather we just agree on some basic habits. He nodded. At least, it looked like a nod. So I laid it out. Simple, clear, clothes off the floor, shoes put away, drying rack stored when it's not in use, and the mouthwash back in the rack. 4 things. That was it. I even paused after, like I was giving space. Like this was a discussion. I felt reasonable. I sounded reasonable. He leaned back, exhaled. You're just too forceful about it. That wasn't what I expected. What do you mean? I asked, still calm, still trying. You have too many rules, he said. It feels like you're trying to make everything your way. I blinked. My way. I repeated. Yeah, he said, instead of, like, compromising. That word again. Okay, I said slowly. What does compromise look like to you? He shrugged. Casual. Like this wasn't a big deal. Maybe you relax a little, he said. And I try a little. Pause. But you're not relaxing at all. I sat there for a second, letting that settle. Translation. You need to care less so I can try less. I didn't say that out loud. Instead, I picked something small. Something simple. Something impossible to argue with. The mouthwash, I said. I stood up, walked to the sink, picked it up. There's a rack right here, I said, pointing. Right next to it. Not hidden. Not inconvenient. It goes here. He looked at it, then at me. It's one bottle, he said. Why does it matter? And that's where something shifted in me. Because it's not about the bottle, I said. My voice tighter now. It's about the fact that I asked for one small thing. And you won't do it. He rolled his eyes. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just enough. And I felt it. That flash of anger. Sharp, immediate. Not because of the bottle. Because of what it meant. I moved on. Before it turned into something bigger. The drying rack, I said. He already looked annoyed. I don't want it out all the time, I said. Can we just store it when it's not in use? He shook his head. The cupboard's annoying to open. I stared at him. It takes 4 seconds. That's still annoying, he said. Silence. Then you store it, he added. I'll leave it out when I use it. That was the moment. Not loud, not explosive, clear. He wasn't compromising. He was assigning, dividing things into what he does and what I deal with. If it bothered me, it became my responsibility. I sat back down, slowly, trying to process it, because this wasn't about effort. It wasn't about time. It wasn't even about habits. It was about something else. Something harder to name. I'm not asking you to do more than me, I said. Quieter now. I'm asking you to meet me halfway. He didn't respond. Not really. Just shrugged again. Like this was still small. Like I was still making it bigger than it needed to be. And somehow, that feeling started to creep in again. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm pushing too much. Maybe I should just let some things go. I hated that thought, because a week ago, this all felt normal. Now it felt like I had to justify it. Like I had to defend. Wanting to live like an adult. In my own home. And the worst part was, I wasn't sure if I was right anymore. I stopped asking. Not dramatically. Not as a statement. I just stopped. No reminders. No, hey, can you? No picking things up behind him. I wanted to see what would happen. At first, nothing changed. Then everything did. The clothes laying on the floor stopped being temporary. It became permanent. Shirts, socks, hoodies. That's where they stayed. The entryway got worse. Shoes layered over each other. Some tipped sideways. Some blocking the door just enough to notice. The drying rack stayed exactly where it was. Always open. Always in the way. And the mouthwash. Still on the counter. Same spot. Untouched. Days passed. Then a week. I didn't say anything. He didn't either. It was like we were living in 2 different apartments. In his, nothing was wrong. In mine, everything was. That silence said more than any argument we'd had. I called my best friend Maya. I didn't plan to. It just happened. I started talking. At first, casually. Then not. The clothes. The shoes. The rack. The mouthwash. And then, the word, naggy. There was a pause on the other end. Not hesitation. Just processing. Chloe, she said finally. Her voice wasn't emotional. That's what made it land. You're asking him to be an adult. I didn't respond. He's making you feel crazy for wanting basic cleanliness. Silence. That's not you being controlling. Another pause. Short. Clear. That's him being defensive. I closed my eyes. Because the way she said it. Simple. Direct. It didn't leave room for doubt. And I realized something uncomfortable. I had been explaining it in a softer way. To protect him. Even when talking to someone else. Maya didn't. And it sounded different. Sharper. More accurate. A few days later, my mom came over. She hadn't seen the apartment since we moved in. I tried to tidy up before she got there. I really did, but there's only so much you can fix. When the problem isn't one moment. It's everything. She walked in, smiled, hugged me, didn't say anything. Not about the shoes, not about the rack, not about the floor. We had coffee, talked about normal things, and for a second, I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it didn't look as bad as it felt. Maybe, later, when Liam stepped out to take a call, she turned to me, quiet, careful. Honey, she said, does Liam not know how to pick up after himself? That was it. No lecture, no judgment, just confusion, and something in me shifted. Because she saw it, immediately, 30 seconds in the door. And she saw it. I smiled, small, tight. Yeah, I said, I guess not. I almost cried after she left. Not because of what she said. Because of how quickly she saw it. And how long it took me to admit it. That night, I didn't look at the floor. Didn't look at the counter. I looked at everything else. The things I hadn't been counting. The meals. I planned them. Every time. The groceries. I remember what we need. When we're out, schedules, appointments, plans with friends, family events. I track all of it. Birthdays, his mom's, his dad's, his cousin's. He doesn't even know when my mom's birthday is. I tested that once, casually. He guessed, wrong, and laughed, like it didn't matter. I didn't laugh, because suddenly, this wasn't about the mouthwash, or the shoes, or the rack. It was about something bigger. Something I hadn't named yet. I wasn't his partner. I was managing a life. He was just living in, handling the details, maintaining the space, keeping things running. And when I asked him to take responsibility, he didn't step up. He stepped back and called me naggy for trying to close the gap. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about cleaning. It was about effort, and the fact that I was the only one making it. So I decided to confront him about it. I didn't start with a question. I didn't start with a request. I started with a line. Liam, I said, I need you to hear me. He looked up, half attentive, waiting. I'm not naggy, I said. I'm not controlling. That got his full attention. I'm asking for basic shared responsibility. I didn't rush, didn't soften it. When you call me those things, I said, you're telling me that my need for a functional home is unreasonable. I held his gaze, and I can't live like that. Silence, short, tense. Then he exhaled, shook his head. You're making this a big deal, he said. It's just clothes. It's just mouthwash. There it was again, smaller, dismissed. It's not, I said. My voice didn't rise. It's about respect. He didn't respond, so I kept going. It's about the fact that I've asked you 100 times to do small things, and you've said no 100 times. I paused. Let it sit. That adds up. He looked away, annoyed now, not reflective. I felt something shift in me. Not anger, not exactly. Clarity. I'm not breaking up with you over a drying rack, I said. That part was true, but I will break up with you if you keep making me feel crazy for wanting a partner and not a project. He didn't like that. I could see it, but I didn't stop. So I need to know, I said. Do you actually want to share a home with me? I let the question hang. Or do you want me to be your mom, who you also get to sleep with? That landed hard. For a second, I thought maybe this was it. The moment something clicked, but he laughed, short, dismissive. You're being dramatic, he said. And then like it was automatic. You're so naggy about this stuff. That was it. Not loud, not explosive, just final, because something in me snapped. Quietly, completely, not anger, not even hurt, just done. I didn't argue after that. Didn't explain. Didn't try again. I just stopped. Over the next few days, nothing changed. Clothes on the floor, shoes by the door, drying rack out, mouthwash on the counter, same apartment, same patterns. But I was different. I wasn't trying anymore. I started looking at apartments. Quietly, on my phone, at night. He didn't notice, or maybe he did, and didn't think it mattered. I didn't tell him. Not while I was searching. Not while I was deciding. Only after I signed the lease. I'm moving out, I said. He blinked, like it didn't make sense. Over this, he asked. I shook my head. Not over this, I said. Over everything this turned into. I didn't explain further. I didn't need to. The day I left, the apartment looked exactly the same. Clothes on the floor, shoes by the door, the drying rack, still out, and the mouthwash, right where it always was. I didn't pick any of it up. Not one thing. Not my problem anymore. 6 months later, I'm in my own place. It's smaller, quieter, but everything has a place. The counters are clear. The drying rack is in the cupboard. The floor is just a floor. I cook dinner for one. Sit down, eat in silence. No reminders, no tension, no second guessing. And somewhere in that quiet, I feel something I didn't realize I lost. Peace. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm asking for too much. I feel like I'm finally living the way I was always supposed to.